Imagine this that you are at work with your husband and suddenly you realize there's something wrong. And what happened was he was having a stroke and then he had a second one. And from that day forward, your life as you once knew it completely changed. Well, that's what happened to today's guest. Jacqueline Morgan and her husband were at work together with their cleaning company, and he had a stroke. And this was 2 years ago. And today, Jacqueline is going to talk a little bit about what that journey over the last 2 years has been like, what it was like when she started, and where she is today with taking care of her husband. Today on Relax, I Got This, Embracing Life After 60. In today's world, older adults face major transitions like downsizing, relocating, or modifying their homes to age in place, all while embracing life after these changes. As a senior home advisor and seasoned realtor, Robin McCoy guides these decisions with care and thoughtful planning, helping create a vibrant future. Welcome to Relax, I Got This, Embracing Life After 60 with me, your host, Robin McCoy. Well, Jackie, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your story with us.
I'm glad to be here.
So, as I was thinking about people to be on the show, and you and I are ABWA sisters. We've known each other through the American Business Women's Association for quite some time. And I thought about you and the challenges that arose just almost 2 years ago to the day of this recording, right?
Correct.
So tell me a little bit about maybe that day, what happened, and then we'll just kind of take the story forward.
Okay, so the day that my husband had a stroke, we had a small cleaning company, and he said he wasn't feeling well, and he said there was a building that he normally would clean, and he said, "Can you help me clean this building?" And I said, "Sure." So I got there before he did, and I was it was a medical facility. I was actually on one side of the building. I heard him when he came in, and so I was just doing my thing. I said, "Okay, he's here." So I had to get a trash bag, and where the trash bags were was where he was at, and he was on the floor. Look, and so I said, "Why are you on the floor?" He said he slipped. So I didn't think anything because it was actually raining. He had the mop. So I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe he did slip.
Yeah.
So,
It's a wet floor, right?
right. So I'm like, okay. So I go back into another room. And I was like, oh, I forgot a trash bag. So I go back around, and he was on his knees, and he was trying to get up, and I was like, "What's going on? Like, why? What's going on?" And just something just didn't seem right. And so I was like, he kept trying to grab, and he couldn't grab, and so it didn't dawn on me on the signs until um, I got him up, and I said, "Well, let me sit you in the chair." Um, and I just knew something was odd, and I had already kind of
Sure.
said, "We're going to go to the hospital. I'm going to drive you to the hospital." And so I said, "Let me get you in a chair." He was like, "No, because you might not be able to get me up." Because at that time he was, much heavier. And so I was like, "Okay, well, just stand here." And I was finished up. I was like, "Let me leave a note for the building, let them know, what's going on." Because I wasn't able to finish everything. I said, "But let me just grab this trash up, and we're going to the hospital." He was like, "No, no, no." I'm like, "Yeah, we're going."
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
he
I'm the
so I
boss
grabbed
there right now.
so I grabbed the trash, and he went to take a step, and he went down. And then I was like, I called at that point, I called the ambulance because it was raining, and I said that if I do get him to the car, he had to walk. It wasn't a long distance, but if he went down again and in the rain, I wouldn't have been able to get him up.
No, no.
So they came, and they said that your husband was having a stroke. And he was fine. We got him near that window. They gave him the medication that they give you, and I forgot what it's called. They give you if, in that time frame, and so he had got the medication within that time frame, and everything was fine. And he had a little weakness on his side. They kept him in the hospital, and Then maybe about a week later, he was in physical therapy, and they were trying to get him to walk, and his arm just drooped, and they say he's having another stroke. So, he was in the hospital about 45 days, like,
Wow.
um, having like mini strokes and stuff. And he would go to, they had this stick center, which it's like a rehabilitation. He would get situated there, and then he would have another like mini stroke, and they put him back in the main hospital, um, and back and forth, and finally, they determined that, the stick center mainly is for people who kind of have a stroke, and they feel like they can kind of rehabilitate them and send them home, like it's kind of like short term.
Okay.
So at that point, when he had the second stroke, he just couldn't walk, he couldn't swallow, and they said that he needed long-term care. So they
Wow.
sent him to a facility to kind of strengthen. And he was there for a minute because I needed him to get strong enough for me to be able
Yeah.
to him to come home, to be able to,
Sure.
um, handle him. So I mean, he was literally, from the time he had a stroke in December, he didn't come home until like August.
Wow. So he was there a long time.
Yes. After being discharged, he was at the hospital for about 45, 50 days, and then he was in a facility, and they got him back to walking somewhat, a little bit, but he was still, not eating. He had dropped from 320 to like 190 pounds. And
Wow. That's a
yeah,
lot of weight loss. That's a lot of weight loss.
so that was the story of, how
Can
it started, the things
so
started.
so he was, I mean, other than like you said, he had some weight on him, but other than that, was he apparently healthy?
Um, he was somewhat healthy. I mean, he was,
Yeah.
you know, he was like most men, they don't like to go to the doctors. Um,
Yes, and we're gonna say that like most men.
um, and not really being on top of his medicine and stuff like that. And, not eating as healthy as he should and stuff. And so, um, I kind of made the transition to be healthier, but he just didn't follow along with me.
Right.
And, and but he was getting around. We had a cleaning business, and he was
Yeah.
getting around. So the day that he had the stroke, it was, it just kind of came out of nowhere to me.
Let me ask you this. So you get him to the hospital, the EMTs say he's having a stroke. He's in the hospital, they're working on him. What's going through your mind in that moment?
Initially, I was, because he was talking. He was, um, he it was a little weak, and they was testing him, and everything was okay. So I wasn't at that point. I wasn't really. I wouldn't say that nervous, because he had a stroke, but everything to seem to be like kind of okay, like just
Yeah,
a little weakness on the left side. It wasn't until he had the second stroke where he lost the ability to kind of walk, and then I noticed like him not being able to swallow. That there,
that's huge right there.
yeah. There was one little moment where I had got scared because literally he had a cousin who, maybe 2 days after he had his stroke, um, she had a stroke, but she passed away. and
Oh my
and
goodness.
and my sister-in-law didn't wanna tell him about the fact that she had a stroke, but I was like, "No, I think you should let him know, because I felt like that's a testament that you're still here."
And that if you're still here, then you can get better,
Right,
and that
right,
let's not give up.
right.
Let's keep pursuing
Right.
whatever it is we
Yes.
need to
Like, so
do.
I said, like, initially I wasn't really like afraid, I was hopeful because it seemed everything to seem to be
Yeah,
okay. He had a little weakness, but I mean, he was eating, and he was walking. It was, he just had a little weakness, but, and I was hopeful that, they said they was gonna send him to this place called the Stick Center. He was gonna be there for a little bit, and then he was gonna come home. So,
You're
that's
like,
what I
that
was
sounds good
thinking.
to me.
Yeah.
Now, how old was he when he had the stroke?
He was 54. He just
54
turned
years old.
Yeah, he just turned 56 literally about a week ago.
Yeah. Wow, 54. So that's not old.
No.
That's not, and he, working a business. So what I guess what I'm getting at is this can come out of nowhere where you just everything's fine and then it's not. And your
Right.
whole world is now changed.
Yes, and that's
Your
exactly what happened.
whole world.
My whole world changed.
Are you 62 or older and considering buying a home? It's important to explore all the opportunities available to you. I want to introduce you to Alicia Dutton with Mutual of Omaha Reverse Mortgage. Since 2013, Alicia has been dedicated to helping baby boomers unlock the benefits of reverse mortgages and reverse for purchase programs. Whether you are looking to stay in your current home or right size into a new one, Alicia provides personalized attention to meet your unique needs and timeline. She is a trusted resource for financial advisors, realtors, and loan officers, and has been a guest on this podcast. She is ensuring you are educated and empowered every step of the way. Discover the possibilities with Alicia Dutton today.
So yeah, so let's so now he's in long-term care for 8 to 8 months, and you've got this business that you had. I mean, are you the cleaning business? Were you working that, or did it
I
just have to go away? Or
So I had a cleaning business and I also had a smoothie shop.
that's
Um,
right, smoothie shop.
the cleaning business, I had to let it go. We had been in a cleaning franchise, and we had been in there for like a number of years. And so, the guy who we got to became really good friends because we were like his first franchisees in this area. And it was at night, and I wasn't sleeping because imagine this was like the first time he had really been away from me for so long, and so
Yeah,
I
of
wasn't sleeping. So I was like,
course not.
I was like, I can't do the franchise. So he was like, okay, if you decide you want to come back, you can always come back. I was like, okay. So the smoothie shop, I would try to go there and hold on, while morning I would go feed him, and then I go to the smoothie shop and be there for a few hours and stuff. So I had limited hours. When he came home, I would try to take him to the smoothie shop, but he couldn't sit very long. And I had to make the decision, smoothie shop or get my husband better. And I made the decision to help get my
Sure.
husband better. And so, yeah, so I had to close the shop.
That's so, kind of the point I'm making is, all of a sudden your life changes. You had two businesses you were running, and both of those within the year had to go away. They just had to there's because you had to get your husband healthy and get him home.
Right.
Now, what was his, how did he respond to all of this? This has happened to him. Now he can't walk and he can't speak well, and he can't be the man of the house, if you will, for lack of a better term. How did he handle that?
Um, he always, we had a bit the cleaning business, but he also worked. And so he would have moments where he felt like he was useless, a
Yeah,
burden to me. Um, and I had to like literally like change my husband, and he would like apologize and sorry, um, that you have to do this. And I would joke. I was like, well, you ain't gonna be sitting around here smelling. I'm gonna put you outside somewhere. So, I would try to find moments in there to make him
yeah,
feel like it's okay. Like, I'm not gonna have you sitting here smelling like pee and poop, and I gotta be around you. I said I had to
just
put the
trying
coat.
to put a little
Yeah,
levity to the situation,
yeah.
right?
So yeah, because he already had enough emotions about
Yeah,
me like having to close the shop, and me taking care of him, and him not being able to work, and him you know just felt like he was a burden to me. And I never felt that he was a burden. I just it was moments I felt like um trying to maneuver through all of that and stuff and just like, am I doing this right?
Well, we're not trained for that,
Right.
right? We aren't trained when we become a caregiver, whether it's for a husband or even a child or a parent, right? When you become that caregiver, we aren't trained for that.
Right.
And it's very difficult to, now you've crossed the line where you're having to take care of his personal needs for
Hmm.
him. And that's a line that, you never expected to have to cross. Now,
Yeah.
did you ever have like home health or anybody coming in to help you?
In the beginning, no, I didn't. It was on me, and I think the hardest part for me was when he wasn't able to swallow, and just trying to get him to even drink in shores, and it was just, um these when you're in these facilities, they don't really, if you don't eat, they're not really going to force you to,
Right.
so I was there going up there 2 and 3 times a day to make sure that he ate. And I mean, there were a couple of times I literally um broke down. I remember one day in particular, I was going to my smoothie shop, and I literally broke down and was like crying, and I and my dad called me right at the time that I was crying, and he said, hello, and I said, hello. He said, are you crying? And I was like, yeah. And then the waterworks
Just
just
something about
yeah.
when daddy calls, man, it all comes
And he
out,
was like,
doesn't it?
he said, I don't know what to tell you. You being tested and just have to pray. I mean, it was really nothing he could do. I
No.
just, my best friend called me, and, she said, well, come here to Charlotte, come to Charlotte. Cause my best friend moved to Charlotte. And so I called my sister-in-law. I was like, can you bring him something to eat? And I drove to all the way to Charlotte in tears.
Yeah.
But when I tell you, that felt like the best release, like just getting that,
Mhm.
because I have been holding all of that
Well, you
in.
hold all the emotions not only for yourself, but for them,
Right,
right? So you want to be strong for him and say, no, we got this. We got this.
right.
Drink that ensure, make sure you're eating something. We got this. You'll get out of here. You'll come home and all these things. But you're holding all that emotion and that weight, and it's got to come out at some time, some point.
Yeah.
It's gonna,
It
it's gonna.
yeah, I wasn't sleeping, and it was balling up, and I tell you, I had a cry. You ever cry so much you get a crying headache? I
Oh
I had
yeah,
a
yeah,
crying headache, but I was only there for like overnight for a few hours or whatever, but that was so I learned to cry more when I needed to.
yeah.
Um those moments there. But yeah, and it was also hard for him because I had to train my kids how to help. We have girls.
Oh, oh. And how old are they?
They're my oldest is 37, 34, and then I have my youngest who is 29.
That had to
So
be so hard for not only them, but for him.
it was, but I told him, I said, I need help. Like I was, for a time it was like I was married to his butt, I said, you know what I mean? Because it was like his bowels, and I was, to his personal care needs. I
Yeah,
was kind
yeah,
of married to that. And so, you know, they had to help me. They would, help and pitch in, and then we started getting folks to come in. But I'm still, when I'm here with the uh his CNA, I'm still a caregiver, because it's like, you know, I he calls on me for certain things,
sure, sure.
and I'm, critical of what they're doing. So it's like, you're never really off the clock as a
Yeah,
well, but I can say my village, they come in and they give me breaks,
good.
to get away, and just
Because
take
you
care
have to
of.
have that. You
Yeah.
have to have that because I was talking to somebody, and when somebody becomes a caregiver, often we will say, "How's your husband doing? How are the kids handling this? How's your
Yeah.
mom?
Right.
How's your dad?" When you suddenly have to care for these people,
Right.
but nobody says, "How are you, Jackie?
Right.
Let's go get a cup of tea."
Right.
Or, "Why don't you go get a massage and I'll stay here?"
Right, but I do
Or,
have the right friends who ask me, who
"Good,
check on me like every week, "How are you?" And so I do
good."
have those close, my tribe who
Yeah.
does that. They check on me like, "How are you?" Eh,
Well, and that because that's critical. That is,
mhm,
there's no way you could have been able to do this for the last 2 years
mm-mm. I mean,
had
yeah,
you not
yeah.
had that village around you.
Oh no, I'd probably be in the hospital somewhere, just probably just
Rocking in the corner like this.
emotional wreck or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so I learned to, when I need a break, sometimes when this CNA comes, I'll just stay a few extra hours in the bed. Just,
Yeah.
sometimes on the weekends, I'll take him to his sister's house and I'll just take some me time, or, so
That's good.
I try to do that.
Good.
I'm learning how to do that, and here lately, I would say I'm getting me back a little bit more.
Good.
Trying to get out and going to like some ABWA meetings, and just just of things that I kind of put on hold, because I had to
Sure.
put a lot on hold because um I just emotionally and mentally, um I was still dealing with being a caregiver
Sure. Sure.
and the stress and maneuvering it, but now we kind of have a routine. Um and I guess that first year you was fear. I was more fearful, like, is he gonna have another one? Um
Sure.
but he goes to the doctor, he checks out good. So that fear is not there as much as it was
It's
like
not in the
last
front
year.
row anymore.
Yeah,
It's
like
kind
it
of
was
moved back a little
last
bit.
yeah, like it was last year. I would say last year was a year of living more fear and scared, and especially like when he come home, um, you know, he was in a separate room, but I could hear him. He was like across the hall, and I would hear him move, and so I didn't sleep.
Right. So you haven't really slept in a couple of years, is what? Well, so where is he now? So what's the situation now? How's he doing physically? And what does that look like at home?
So he's home. He's been home, like I said, since last August. He came home. When he first came home, he was not walking. And so the decision when I closed my smoothie shop down, he had just I was getting ready to start him with physical therapy. So they got him walking. So
That's good.
by the anniversary of his the year, he was starting to walk. And we took a trip. We took a road trip to New Jersey, and he walked around a little bit. Um, he gets up, he walks around the house. Sometimes and funny story, he tries to have some independence. One day I went to the store. I said, my daughter had my car, and I had left the wheelchair in there because, he walks, but like he can't walk a long distance. So like if we go to a
Sure.
restaurant or something, I'll use the wheelchair. So I was like, I'll be right back. I'm going up here to my daughter's job. She literally works like 5 minutes from here. Um, and I said, I'm going to get this wheelchair. He's like, okay. So I come back in the house, and he has this recliner where he sits at, but he wasn't sitting there. He was sitting on the couch. And he was looking like this, looked like he had been into something. And I was like, why you sitting here? I just wanted to sit in there. So I go in the kitchen, and he was trying to get something out of the cabinet or something. You could see the cabinet was left over, and I had this muffin, and he get the muffin. I guess because he has a left hand, his left hand, he doesn't have full use of it. So
Okay.
he I guess he was trying to get a muffin or something, but and his little walker has a pouch, but evidently didn't make it there. It was on the floor. Uh,
And there's no picking that up because if he
so
bends down, he's not getting up.
so he said when he heard me coming in, he knew he was in trouble. But we have funny moments like that where he tries to have some independence. Like he'll try to go into
Yeah.
the cabinets and do something. And when he first started walking, I remember the first time we had some pizza, and I think I dozed off or something, and I could hear the microwave going off. He put the plate in the microwave, and heat his pizza up and stuff. And like I said, mind you, he doesn't have full use of his left side. And so, in moments like that, when you see things like that, I was like, stay out of my kitchen. But but in the back of my mind, it was like, to see him do something like that
Yeah.
again, you know.
That's huge. That's
Right. But
huge.
yeah, he walks around, he tries to, do things. He does have some
Good.
limitations and stuff, but you know, we try to, I have a little laptop where he can take a course, and different little things we try to do
Sure.
for him to feel like he's viable in this society, because he does have days where he feels like he says, I'm useless, like, and I'm not. Like, God gave you a chance to be here for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, there's no
Yeah.
mistakes. Like, you're supposed to be here, you know?
Well, and I think, and I'm sure there's a lot of, just mental health that goes around this for not only the, the person who had the stroke, but also the people that care for him and just love him and are around him.
Hmm.
And it's a struggle for everybody. And that's what, you know, the life-changing part of it is. These things can happen and your life completely changes in the matter of seconds.
Right.
Now, what would you for somebody that, that this happens to, right? So let's say this happens to somebody today and they hear this, what would be if you could whisper in her ear, what would you tell her?
I would tell him that um, those days that like I said, those days you feel like you want to cry, cry. Um, try to have a little bit of you, take some time, and definitely equip yourself with a village if you can. Um, that's probably the biggest thing, how I'm able to, I've had a few just a little getaways, little weekends and here or
Yeah,
there, you know, um, but that's the biggest thing. I think the biggest thing is not holding it all in, trying to be strong, because I've always been that strong person,
sure.
that in the family, that go-to person, even for friends, they say, you always seem like you're so strong. Um, but sometimes the strong
The
person.
strongest need a little, they
Right,
need something to lean on every
right,
now and then as well.
right. So that biggest thing is not trying to hold those emotion in and asking for help when you need it. Because now I ask for help. If I need a break, I'll take a break in a minute.
Good.
I'm learning. You learn that during the process. I didn't always know that. Um,
Right.
but being going on 2 years now, you learn that.
Well, and I would imagine, like you said, you get on a rhythm and you find different things that not only he's able to do, but that will kind of push him out of maybe what his comfort zones are and kind of help him to that next. And at the same time, you are finding your line, right? And
Hmm.
you know where, okay, I've hit, I'm hitting the wall. I need to go. I need
Hmm.
somebody to come give me a break. I gotta, I'm gonna go to the mall. I'm gonna
Hmm.
go sit in
Yeah,
the
and I do
coffee
that.
shop by
Sometimes I
myself.
might just go walk around the mall, just window shop
Yeah,
or whatever, go to the
just to
park,
be
and
quiet
yeah.
and peaceful.
Yep, I'll go in a restaurant, just sit by myself and write or
Yeah.
something. But yeah, just knowing when you need help That's probably the most important thing, and not trying to hold it all in, like trying to be like me strong, because it's impossible to do that all the time. Because like I
There's no
said, that day,
way.
yeah, that day that I had that breakdown, like I literally, I think I cried for two hours straight. Just that was all of that, and I felt like the weight of the world was lifted off of me.
Yeah.
You know, um, I'm driving, wiping tears. Like Charlotte from where I'm at, it's about an hour and 15 minutes, and I'm driving,
Like, I hope you had a box of Kleenex in your car with you. Otherwise, it's just this.
No, it was
Right?
that I
Just
had some
this.
tissue, but it was
It didn't
soaked.
last long, did it? It
Mm-mm.
didn't last long.
But yeah,
So
that's the biggest thing. Just knowing when
let your
to
emotions
right.
be what they need to be.
Yes, that's
I think that's
important.
sound
And
advice. That's sound advice. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and again sharing your story because even if it helps one person out there who might be going through something similar, and it doesn't have to be a stroke, it doesn't have to
right,
be a husband or a wife,
right,
when suddenly you find yourself in a completely different place than you ever imagined. Because I'm
right,
sure you and he never thought that you were going to, especially in your 50s, that you would be taking that level of care of the other.
right,
Right? You kind of prepare for it. Well, honey, when we're in our 80s, we'll take care of each other.
right.
You don't think about
And
it
sometimes
being in your
you
50s.
joke about it. When I get older, you're gonna change my diaper or whatever, and you joke about like that, and things
Yeah.
like that. It's sometimes you might see it on TV, but like you said, when you're faced with this reality, and I just adapted. Like, my father said, your gift that God gave you as a caregiver. And I don't think it's a gift. I just feel like, yeah, maybe he prepared me along my journey in life. I just felt like I just did and adapted to what I needed to do to make sure that he was okay.
Well, and that's what we do, right? And if you are going to be the caregiver, then you do it at the best level you can and ask for help when you can and get the help when you need it. Get the help when you need it because you're not doing yourself any good because then you become angry and resentful and you're not doing them any good because you just can't be emotionally there. So
Right.
find the resources if it's your personal tribe and your friends and your family. If it's not them because they're not nearby or for whatever reason, find somebody so that you are not always up in it.
Right. And I feel like my family has been such a big ins- instrument. Like my friends have been my emotional support. Like my friends take care of me, but my family helped me take care of him.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's we like I said, we work it out the way that works for us and we find that rhythm so that we can take care of our loved ones.
Yep.
So, well, thank you so much for being
Thank
on
you
the
for
show
having
and
me.
and sharing just a little piece of your story to give people an idea of what that can look like and it can happen to anybody.
We sure can.
Well, thank you too for tuning in to another episode of Relax I Got This, Embracing Life After 60. Just a little bit about that caregiving aspect of our lives. So make sure that you give us a 5-star review, hit subscribe, share with your friends, and let's live long into our lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Embracing Life After 60 with me, Robin McCoy. This podcast is produced by Jen Sariano with special thanks to the amazing team at Relax I Got This. You can find more episodes on YouTube and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, follow, and share to help us spread the message. Until next time, keep embracing life to the fullest.